Hi everyone, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. I hope everybody had a great week last week. I was away from my office, and I'm back now. Students, it's good to have you here. We are looking at an IELTS listening exam today. Specifically, we're focusing on part 3 and part 4. We started this listening exam last week with the week before with part 1 and part 2. The topics for part 3 will be an author talking about his books with a host, and then a lecture on the history of roads. Some of you might recall that. Welcome Ariadna, Aisha. I'm doing very well. Thank you for the questions. I had a great week last week. It was a fun adventure in nature for me with some friends. Students, this material is brought to you by aehelp.com and glshelp.com. These are our websites. They host these materials. That's where you can find these listening exams. This is what our academic IELTS website looks like here with the blue background. You can click this big red button right over there to join the premium version of our course. It is a one-time payment. You get lifetime access. It costs about $30 to $50 US depending on where you are in the world. We're an IDP affiliate. We're a British Council partner, an IELTS test registration center. I'm a certified British Council agent. I've conducted a lot of IELTS exams over the years, and I'm here to help you pass your upcoming exams. For the general IELTS, check us out at glshelp.com. Same idea, click that big red button. You can use this code TOGETHER9 from this class to get an extra 10% discount on the price. And again, it's just a one-time payment. So if you want all of the exams, there are 6 of them with all of the listening videos, interactive courses, and access to 2 more premium live classes like this one each week, then sign up. Students, the apps in your app stores are Academic IELTS Help and General IELTS Help. You can link the apps to the websites for mobile learning. Instagram is IELTS_AHelp and GLS Help. And if you have questions, just send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com. That's my name, Adrian, or admin@aehelp.com. Welcome, Carolina, our chat moderator. Great to have you here. I hope you're doing awesome, Carolina. You will see Carolina's name in blue in the chat here. And she's here to help us with the class, to make it run smoothly and to answer some questions potentially that you might have. Students, right now it's listening. Tomorrow we have speaking here on YouTube. And then for our premium students, later on in the week on Thursday, we've got task 2 writing and speaking on Friday. Those classes are conducted through Zoom. If you'd like, download Zoom. It's a free app. You can use it. It's I'm sure most of you know about it. We will use it for our speaking class tomorrow to interact as well. Make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, get notifications of all our newest videos and posts. You can check out a video. I'll put it in the chat there. All right, listening. So let's do this. Students, let's get right into it. We're going to do each of these listening sections and then go through the answers together. I will give you tips and strategies as we work through the questions. In listening, it's very important to be active, to be focused, to really pay attention to the questions on the computer or on the paper if you're doing the paper-based exam. And also to visualize. You want to really see the information. So today's listening again, it's coming from our 6th exam. And we'll listen, we'll answer as we listen, and then we'll go through the answer key together again. I encourage you to put your answers separate from the chat. Don't put it in the chat. Try to give everybody a chance to answer fairly. Eugen, thank you for those emojis. I'm doing Great. Thank you. Hi, Ariadna, Yusra. Nice to see lots and lots of students in the class. Okay, so again, we'll go back to our website here and get into the My Student account. And again, when you have the full version of our course, you've got lots and lots of course material. You've got over 200 videos for all sections of the IELTS. You've got practice exams, and you've got these audio CDs. So let's do this. Let me just make sure my volume is about 50%. Okay, so this is going to be our 6th exam with track 3 for this listening. Here we go, everybody. So listen, pay attention, answer the questions, okay?
Now turn to section 3. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Listening, section 3. You will hear a radio host and his guest discussing the virtues of various art forms. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Our next guest is a curator of a major art gallery in the city who has just released his 2nd book on the virtues of art. We're pleased to have Mr. Edgar Patterson here today. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here, and please call me Edgar.
Edgar, of course. Now, in your first book, published 4 years ago, you focused on performance artwork such as plays, musical concerts, films, and other such works. Your 2nd book is a little closer to home for you. It concerns purely creative fine art.
Well, yes. It deals with the aesthetic virtue of different painting styles.
Okay, so give our viewers a quick rundown on what your book is about. Does it make an argument? I mean, does your book take a position on a certain issue in the world of art?
Yes. My book does take a position, and a rather radical one. The main thesis of my book is that the meaning we associate with a painting exists purely within ourselves. This is in stark contrast to many commentators who believe that the author of a painting gives the painting its meaning. Under this framework, if an artist intends his painting to represent the fear of an orphan child, then this is the one and only meaning such a painting can have. We might call this the intention theory of art. Conversely, my theory is that no matter what the intention of the author is, the meaning of the painting comes from the viewer. The meaning is exactly what the viewer thinks it is. This solves an important problem with the intention theory of art, namely that we do not have access to the mind of the artist, and therefore we do not have access to the painting's meaning at all.
Very interesting, Edgar. But doesn't the intention theory work as a sort of grounding for artistic analysis? What I mean is, while we might not know the meaning the artist intended, isn't the point of art to try to discern this meaning? If art is just whatever we want it to be or feel it as, doesn't that somehow make it less valuable?
That's an astute critique of my position, but one I have an answer for. My response is that art is not merely what we want it to be or feel it as. We can still participate in our critique and interpretation. All I want to say is, in the end, it is up to us to discern the meaning and value of paintings on our own.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions 27 to 30.
Now, let's talk about one type of controversial art, abstract art. How does your, can I call it a subjective theory of meaning?
Yes, that is fair.
Okay. How does your subjective theory of meaning apply to something like modern or abstract art? art which doesn't tell an obvious story or have a clear meaning. Many people think that such works of art have no meaning at all.
It's certainly an interesting case, but one which my theory is well matched to deal with. You see, abstract art has its critics. Like you say, they think it has no meaning at all. However, other people think abstract works of art have all sorts of meanings. Now, under the intention theory, most of these commentators will be wrong, since the work of art either has a meaning or it doesn't, and if it does, then it only has a single meaning. So under the intention theory, only those critics who discern the specific meaning of the artist will be successful. My theory, however, results in each critic being correct in their own way. For example, if, after critically analysing a certain abstract work of art, I determine it is meaningless, then it is meaningless. Because the meaning of an artwork comes from within, I cannot be wrong, and neither can other people. The critic who sees a metaphor for suffering and the critic who views it as something entirely different are both right. We are all correct in our interpretation, as long as we've given the painting a fair critique.
What do you mean by a fair critique?
Well, I mean it is not enough to merely look at a painting and write it off immediately as meaningless. One must go through a certain process. That said, there are certainly other things.
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, students, always use that half minute to check your answers. Let me just stop the audio before we get into the fourth part. I understand that might have been difficult for some. That is okay. Part 3 of the listening test is often the most difficult for many exam takers just because the topics can be challenging, like talking about art, for example, between two people. But again, you need to, in the IELTS, just take a deep breath, visualize it, pay very careful attention to the questions, go with the audio, and I'll show you that it's not that bad once you really get into it, as long as you have identified what these two people are talking about. So, first of all, we have this question here: how many books has the guest written? Now, when you're looking at multiple choice students, don't worry so much about the answers. Pay a lot more attention to the question and think about how that question may appear in the audio. Usually it's not in a question form, it's usually in a statement form. So somebody might say, like, I have written 2 books, or in this case they said, in your first book you talked about this, in your second book you talked about that. So here the correct answer is B, it's 2. And Alexander got that, and Aisha got that. Yeah, they actually give you the answer a couple of times. They say your first book and then your second book. So we get that answer. And again, you have to just really pay attention. They're in part 3 and part 4 of the listening. They're usually not going to give you a direct answer from the choices. So you have to really pay attention to that paraphrasing. Okay. All right, and then came this information. What description does the guest give his book's thesis? Now, of course, you need to have some vocabulary, students, for part 3 and part 4. The thesis is like the topic, okay, of a paper or writing or a book. In this case, the author says, well, my book takes a rather some kind of position, so describes his thesis. Aisha says it's B, I think. Yeah, it's radical. What does the word radical mean? What is the meaning of radical? So when you're doing your listening practice at home, students, and even though, you know, if you have a listening like this, you might think, oh, that was really tough. Lots of new words. These two people are speaking so quickly. I am having trouble understanding the man's British accent. Then even though it might be challenging, you still need to make sure that you're learning the new words when you're studying for the IELTS. So what does the word radical mean? What is the definition of the word radical. So what does it mean, for example, to say that the book has a radical thesis? What does that actually translate to, right? So Ariadna says that means extreme. Aisha means extreme or progressive. Alexander says direct, far right, or far left. Yeah, it means it's different. It's different. It's novel. Novel means it's new. Maybe not many people have thought about it in this way. So radical means it's different, it's novel, and yes, it could mean also that it's extreme. So it's kind of a combination of these, right? So the book has a radical thesis means that the book makes an extreme and novel argument. Okay, so that would be the translation. Now again, students, especially with the help of AI out there these days, it's really important to take that minute. You're not going to learn just by doing one listening after the next without review. Review is key in the listening section, okay? So review and learning is key to improving the listening section. It is not effective to just simply try to do as many listening tests before your IELTS as possible without a critical review, analysis, or analyses, let's say, and adaptation. What do I mean by that, students? So when I say that when you're doing listening tests, it's not good enough to try to do just one after the next, but you need to do some critical review, analysis, and adaptation. What do you think I mean by the word adaptation in this case? And this is all listening because you're listening to me. I'm speaking with a Canadian accent, by the way. So you're doing it right now. I mean, you're practicing listening just by being here, by going through these tests, and also by listening to my instructions, my lecture. So what does the word adaptation? So do listening tests with the adaptation of the information. What do I mean by that, students? What am I trying to suggest that you do? So let me just explain it while you figure that out. So what I mean by adaptation is that when you're doing your practice exams, and this is true for any section, but listening I think is a good one to look at. Same with the reading. Then what you need to do is once you're done and you realize, oh, there were a few new words here that really caught me off guard or were really surprising, then you take those words, you write them down, you figure out their meanings, you figure out what they meant in the listening section, and then you adapt them in your everyday life. Okay, so you use them in your everyday life. So what I'd like everybody to do right now who's watching and in the chat is take the word radical and make a sentence with radical that's personal to your life. Okay, so take the word radical, write a sentence that is an example. Reflective, I don't want to repeat the word here. So you might have some radical thoughts, you might have some radical perspectives, you might have some radical practices or activities. Write a sentence that's reflective, so that uses that word, and then you'll remember it forever. Okay. I'll give you an example. Last week I was not here. I was not in my office, and that's because I was enjoying an outdoor adventure in northern BC, and I was on a jet boat. Maybe some of you can look up what that is. Running rivers. So I partook in a radical activity last week, running the Dease River in northern British Columbia on a jet boat. That's literally what I did. So I partook in a radical activity last week, running the Dease River in northern British Columbia on a jet boat. Okay, so that would be a good example of adapting the word radical in my everyday life. Let's see what some of you did, okay, or how you use the word radical. Okay, and I promise I'll go through the answer keys, but just doing a listening section and getting answer keys is not going to help you improve your listening score. This is what you need to do, students. So Aisha says, I took a radical step by preparing for MDCAT while helping students online. It changed how I manage my time and energy. Okay, very good. Yeah, Aisha, that's great. It's novel, it's new, it's extreme. I like it. Perfect. Lovely. Let me just give it a nice boom like that. You know what? I can even give it a star or a thumbs up, but that's a great example of what I'm talking about. Okay, Toya, very good. Toya used a different word form, but that's okay, and that works. So Toya says, my life changed radically over the past 2 years as I got married, had a baby, and moved to a new country. Toya, that is awesome. And yes, I 100% agree that that deserves a huge green check mark, because I agree that that is a radical change in your day-to-day life for sure. Getting married, having a baby, and moving to a new country is a radical change. Awesome. Now, I bet all of you who are watching and thinking about those examples or how to use it, now you're going, oh, okay, I get it. I'm not going to forget that word now. If that comes up in my IELTS listening, I'm going to get it right, and I'll know exactly what they're talking about, right? Okay, so nicely done. That's what you do, students. So that's how you improve listening scores. You improve listening scores by adapting what you hear, okay, when you're practicing. Okay, you improve listening scores by adapting what you hear to your own life. Okay. And now when we go through this exam, you're going to see, okay, I get it. I get it. I get what this guy was talking about a little bit more. So here again, his book is taking a radical position on understanding art. Okay. All right. KGPT, you make me laugh. KGPT says, I just came here to brag about my score. I got 7 overall, and I'm never studying English again. KGPT, I will bet you $1 million right now that you will be studying English again within the month. It's the world language. It's the language of business, travel, movies. Whether you're doing it passively or actively, there's no such thing as not studying English in these. It's like saying I'll never study math again. Well, yeah, not true. Okay. All right. Okay, so radical position. Which statement best describes the intention theory of art? So his radical position is this intention theory. Okay. The intention theory means what? Okay. Or actually, sorry, it's not his radical statement. That's the proper one. So The intention theory, and then the other one that they actually eventually identify is the subjective meaning theory. Okay. All right. The intention theory, it means it's intended, right? It's intent. Intent. So it says the author creates an artwork's meaning. The meaning comes from the viewer. There is no meaning outside the viewer's intention. Okay, if I'm the artist, and again, so keep it simple, students, and this is where you really want to be active in the listening. So let's say that I'm going to stick with my original boat examples here. So what is this? What did I just draw? What did I intend to draw? Okay, so what did I intend to draw? What is this? Hopefully, Aditya says it's a boat. Okay, what kind of a boat is it, Aditya? So what's my intent here? It says you drew a 4. No. Alexander says it's a yacht. This is not my boat. Okay. Okay, come on. It's more than just a boat. It's a sailboat. It's a sailboat. Okay, there. Students, learn the different types of boats. That was a sailboat. Okay. I can redraw it for everybody because it was really quick. So here. Okay, so this is a sailboat. It's a sailboat. This is the sail. Okay, it uses the wind. It's a wind-powered boat. Okay, so my intention is to draw a sailboat, right? So what does this mean? It means that the author creates an artwork's meaning. Okay. That's the intention theory. Okay, so the author has an intention. They go, okay, I intend to draw a sailboat, and then that's what it is, right? Okay, so it comes from me. And if you didn't get it on that one, you can use the next question to help you figure this one out. So what is the biggest problem with the intention theory? And some of you might have had this problem with my amazing art piece. So I'm going to redraw it again. Okay. So what's the biggest problem? And then here, even if you didn't catch it, once you read the answers, use logic. Sometimes logic is really, really helpful, right? So here, we do not have access to the mind of the artist. That's definitely going to be a big problem. So if you have no idea what I'm trying to draw here, especially if once waves get involved like that, then that could be a problem. The intention is not our own, so we cannot discern it. That's not true. It lacks grounding. That's not true. So here, the logical thinking will tell me that it's A. Okay, so using good logic and good critical thinking, like the topic of this, is very valuable. Okay, all right. Okay, let's take a look at questions 25, 26, all the way to 30. We'll move through these a little bit smoother now. So basically here, this host and this author are talking about this topic. So the author wrote a book about understanding art, and we can do it two ways. We can try to figure out what the artist is thinking, or we can just give it our own meaning, right? So hopefully many of you got that. Did everybody get that? So you really, like, if you're practicing at home and you don't understand the listening section, then you have to look at the transcripts, listen to it as much as possible so you can figure out what's going on, okay? And then you should be able to summarize it, right? Like this part 3 listening is about a host talking with an author about his book that describes 2 ways to understand art. Firstly, intention theory, the intent of the artist or artist, sure. Second, the subjective meaning theory, the meaning given to art by the viewer. Okay, so you should be able to summarize any listening section in this way. If you can't, listen again. Okay. So, and ideally, you should be able to, again, summarize any listening part in 2 or 3 sentences clearly. If not, then listen and look at the transcripts. As much as needed to get there. Okay, all right. Everybody clear on that? Okay. So you can't just be going over listening sections where you don't know what's happening. All right. Make sure that doesn't happen. Make sure you have a clear picture. Haha, no pun intended. Make sure you have a clear picture of what you're listening to. Okay. 25. According to the host, one of the main goals in art critique is to understand a painting's what? And again, you don't need to make it more difficult than necessary. So what do you think, students? According to the host, one of the main goals in art critique is understand the paintings. Hopefully everybody got this. It's meaning, right? Okay. And the intention theory, so understanding the artist, seems to be best equipped for this task. Okay. Fine. Goodbye, KGPT. Do let me know if you end up listening or studying English again. Thank you for sharing your score, by the way, KGPT. You did a really good job. I'm actually going to send you a thumbs up here in the chat for you. There you go. And all the best in your next step. Students, it's always so awesome when you come back and share your scores with us, even if you feel like you'll never want to study English again. That's fair. You know, I get it. It's a lot of hard work. But I definitely appreciate you being here with me today, and all the other classes and sharing your scores. While you're thinking of scores, everybody, again, these materials are coming from our websites, aehelp.com and gieltshelp.com. So aehelp.com, where this audio is coming from, looks like this, and gieltshelp looks like this. Make sure you use these courses daily. Attend these classes. It's a great way. We have students coming back. Like KGPT all the time saying like, yeah, I just went through these materials, I listened, I practiced, it was all good. Okay. Right. How do you do it? Go to the website and sign up. That's all you got to do. Back there. There you go. That one or that one. Okay. All right, let's go through the rest of these answers now so we can get to part 4. So the guest responds that art is not merely, I think it's spelled like that. No, it's not spelled like that. Spelling's important. If I misspell it, I can know the word, I still won't get it right. It's merely, M-E-R-E-L-Y. Again, if you don't know what the word merely means, what do? The same thing as with radical, merely, just, or only. Okay. I didn't merely jet boat in northern BC. I was on a hunting expedition with 2 of my friends. True story. But we didn't, we got a couple of birds, but nothing big. Okay. I didn't merely jet boat in northern BC. I was on a hunting expedition with my 2 friends. True story. It was fun. We had a good time. Okay. So, again, always use the new vocabulary. Now we have a table here, and don't overthink it. Always read the instructions. It says complete the table, answer right or wrong for each position. And we can see that. You saw, I'm sure, when you were reviewing, that it was right, wrong, right. So they give you 3 of the answers. You just have to figure out the other 3. And if you know what these words mean, intention theory or subjective meaning theory, then this is no problem at all. You will have no problem doing this. So critic thinks critically about an artwork and judges it to have no meaning. Subjective meaning theory, critic is right. Intention theory, number 27, Aisha says right. Ariadna says wrong. Yeah, it's wrong because the author always gives it meaning. Okay. It's basically not possible to have no meaning to art. So I'll show you what I mean. So if you're making art, it's not possible to have no meaning. I'll show you why. Okay, so this is my art piece. What do you think that is? You'll say, well, Adrian, it has no meaning. That's just scribbles. But maybe that's exactly my meaning, is it's scribbles. It's green scribble. And that's the meaning of my art. Okay? So art for the artist always has meaning. It cannot exist without meaning. So again, logic, right? Okay. Alexander says, that's your signature. Alexander, I hope that's not my signature. I mean, my signature doesn't look great, but I'd be pretty sad if that were my actual signature. Okay. Critic does not think critically about an artwork and judges it to have no meaning. It's wrong and wrong again. Because remember that in order for the subjective meaning theory means that the viewer is giving the meaning, you have to think critically. Like, you have to think about it, right? So it's all wrong. Okay. All right. Aisha, don't feel embarrassed. That won't get you forward. Just learn. And this is a tough one. This is a challenging one. This is one of the more difficult part 3s. So it's all good. It's all good. All good. Okay. Critic understands the author's meaning. Critic is right. And according to subjective meaning theory, it's right. Okay, and so those make a lot of sense once you understand what they're talking about. It's one of the big differences for part 3 and part 4 is you need to have more comprehensive understanding in the listening. So to get the answers correct quickly in part 3 and part 4 of listening, you need to have a global understanding. You can't just be picking at the little pieces or words or sentences. Okay, that's the big difference here. Okay, keep that in mind, students. It's an important tip as you go forward in your IELTS studies. Okay, so for part 3 and 4 of the listening section, to get high scores, you need to have a holistic understanding of the information. It is usually not enough to just understand the pieces. Okay, keep that in mind. That's really important. Aditya, no. Intention theory means it's the intent of the author. So the author intended to draw or paint a picture that shows a person crying or a person laughing. The subjective meaning theory is that the viewer, so the person looking at the painting, can give it meaning if they look at it for a little bit. Okay, that's what it means. All right. And then here is that kind of global understanding. This is a good example of it. So an art critic is viewing a painting for the first time and wants to critique it using the subjective meaning theory. Determine whether the critic has satisfied the constraints of the theory with regard to his critique of the painting. Write the correct letter A to B next to question 30. The critic has satisfied the demands. The critic has not satisfied the demands. So the critic looks at the painting for a moment and concludes from his initial impression that the painting lacks aesthetic value. Okay? Has this critic satisfied? So have they done what this subjective meaning theory requires, or no? So Ariadna says 30 should be B because it's not a fair critique. Yes, in this part here, it comes from this, looks at the painting for a moment. The author here, the person talking, says multiple times that if a person's looking at a painting and they try to figure out what it means, they need to look at it for more than just a moment. They need to give it true effort. Okay? So the answer here is B. Okay? And you will often find that, right, in art galleries with abstract art. Somebody who just runs through the gallery quickly and not a big art fan, they say, oh, this is just all silly. It has no meaning. It's just a whole bunch of lines and triangles and shapes on the wall. There's no meaning here. But then somebody moves through the same gallery slowly, looking carefully at the painting, and starts to feel the emotions and the messages contained in the art pieces. So they see a lot of meaning, right? Okay. All right, students, I know that was a bit tricky. Again, I recommend reviewing that. Our books have all of the transcripts at the back of the book. So this is page 81. The transcripts are back here. Okay, let me see where I can answer keys. It's going to be right here at the very end. Yeah, so back of the book. Okay, take a look at it. Lots and lots of explanation there, and you can see all the details. I'm just going to go back to page 81 here. Okay, there we go. Okay, students, let's do one more. You might actually find this a little bit easier. Some students find section 4 easier just because it's one speaker instead of two, and sometimes even the topics might be a little bit easier. Here they're talking about roads. So again, if you have a headset, put it on. We're going back to our website, aehelp.com, but you'll find the same at gieltshelp.com, and we'll listen to this audio here. Again, you'll find that in the app and on the website. Here we go, students.
Now turn to section 4.
Same idea.
Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listening section 4. You will hear a lecture about road infrastructure and its connection to economic prosperity. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Roads have been connected to economic prosperity for millennia. The first roads were thought to have been created by repeated animal grazing and then utilized by humans as ready-made routes for travel between adjacent lands. These roads, evidence for which exists going back 12,000 years, were likely not connected so much to economic prosperity as to survival itself. These roads allowed hunter-gatherers faster access to greater swaths of land. The first paved roads were used in ancient Egypt about 4,500 years ago. Historians theorize that these roads were the first roads used for trade in our history. These roads also would have been used to transport items, such as building supplies. Though rivers were much more practical thoroughfares for the transport of goods, certain goods from certain areas could not be transported by boat, and this necessitated the creation of roads for economic reasons. The Silk Road, though not precisely a road, is one of the most famous trade routes in history. Composed of many types of road, the Silk Road stretched from China and Thailand in the east, all the way through the Middle East and terminating in Western Europe. These different routes of the Silk Road brought myriad items from the east to the west, including, of course, silk. This brought economic prosperity to China and surrounding regions for many centuries. The Silk Road was so valuable for commerce that it persisted for over 1500 years. The Roman Empire was the first major manufacturer of a system of roads. At its height, the Roman Empire contained 29 major roads, totaling over 75,000 kilometers. That's enough road to go around the world twice. Notably, this is almost the precise total length of the modern United States interstate highway system. These roads connected the vast lands of the empire and brought an intertwined economic prosperity to the diverse regions of the empire. Furthermore, the roads were used for military transportation, giving the Romans a massive strategic advantage over their less advanced adversaries. Through the Middle Ages, roads continued to be built and used for trade and commerce, though technological advances were virtually non-existent. Though tar-based roads were used briefly in the Arab Empire in the 8th century, this technology would not take off for another millennium. Today, our roads and highways connect our communities, countries, and economies. They are the modern trade routes by which we are all connected to each other. The modern world would not be possible without the vast expanse of road infrastructure. One interesting development in the history of road infrastructure was the advent of underground systems. The first such system, the London Underground, opened in 1863. Such subterranean routes greatly increase the volume of human life that a city can sustain, thus increasing that city's economic output. London would not be a fraction of the economic powerhouse it is today without its underground rail system. The same can be said for virtually every other major economic centre. Underground systems are the next generation of economic generators. While roads move goods which create economic prosperity, underground systems move human capital, which creates further economic prosperity. What is the next great advance in ground transportation? Some futurists have theorized about a system of tubes propelled by air pressure or other means, which would transport individuals vast distances in short times. Such a system could move humans at unprecedented speeds, perhaps with an economic footprint far less than that of subterranean networks. Such tubes could even be built underwater. Imagine such a system connecting New York to London or Tokyo to San Francisco. It would be incredible. Whatever lies ahead for humanity, roads have gotten us to where we are, and they are very likely to play a prominent role in getting us to where we will be next, in one form or another.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, students, and check those answers, super important. Let's go through them together. Interesting, right, about roads. We just take roads for granted. They're there, but ultimately, yeah, roads are very, very important. They play a critical role in human culture and evolution, society. Okay, here we go, students. So, what phenomenon created the first roads? Okay. All right. So what phenomenon created the first roads? Let's see. Anybody got that? Hopefully you did. The correct answer was, yeah, very good, Ariana. It was animal grazing. I actually saw that in northern BC. Deer and moose, these big animals, animal grazing. There are some pretty big roads that get created by these animals because they move alongside rivers and lakes, over mountains, and they usually take the path of least resistance. And by doing so, they create trails, basically hiking trails that that humans can use as well. Okay. So So it's animals grazing. Grazing means eating food. They basically eat the path through the forests and fields and create a trail. Okay, that becomes a road. All right, number 32. Though roads were necessary for the transportation of many goods, what was a much more practical thoroughfare for the transports of goods in ancient times? And I was using this in the last week as well, lots of it. And yes, it's definitely easier than walking through the forest in many cases. The answer here was very good. Rivers, yes. Rivers are basically roads of water, right? Rivers, absolutely. You don't need to capitalize that, by the way, students. Can be small r. All right, this listening for part 4, in my opinion, is not that bad. So this one's relatively easy. Okay, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's not that bad. So the IELTS can pick any topic, and part 4 talking about roads. Yeah, absolutely. This is very typical. So if anybody's finding this one difficult, maybe don't sit the IELTS just yet. Wait a little bit until you can listen to this confidently, okay? So which of these roads totaled approximately 75,000 kilometers? 1, the United States interstate system. 2, the ancient Egyptian road network. 3, the ancient Roman road network. The Silk Road. 2 of them did. The answer is A. It's the U.S. interstate system, highways connecting all of the different states like California, Florida, Washington, Utah. Not Hawaii. You need a plane for that. I don't know. I think if we calculate it all the way up to Alaska, well, yeah, but you got to go through Canada for that. Okay, so the answer here was A. Okay, what were the 2 benefits of the Roman system of roads? Economic prosperity, so moving money around, and military transport. Those are the ones that I wrote down in my notes. Now I'm going to see if any of those match. Economic prosperity for the city of Rome? No. Increased mobility of Roman armies? Yes. Rapid technological advancements? Didn't talk about that. The importation of luxury goods from China, didn't talk about that. Broad economic prosperity for the empire, that's yes. So the answer is B and E. Those match my answers. It's not the city of Rome, of course. We have the city of Rome. There's actually multiple cities of Rome, but in the world, but it's the empire, the old empire of Rome. Okay, students, last few questions here, last 5. So you had to figure out whether it applies to ancient roads, applies to the subway system, future transportation, or all of them. Okay. Students, one key word here, one key word, logic. Okay. Use your critical thinking, use your logical thinking. Super duper important. All right. So increases economic activity. Do ancient roads increase economic activity? Yes, we just talked about it, right? The Roman Empire. Do subways increase economic activity? So if you can move people, workers, businessmen around the city quickly with an underground subway system, does that increase economy? Yeah. Do you think roads in the future will increase economy? I mean, if you've seen those self-driving cars delivering packages, then you have your answer. So here, clearly the answer is D. Roads move money. End of story, right? Roads move money. End of story. They had, they have, and they will have. Okay, so past perfect, present perfect, future perfect. Roads move money. Okay. Very clear there. Responsible for the growth of modern cities. Pay attention to words here. Growth of modern cities. Ancient roads. Not modern cities, right? So it wouldn't make sense. Subway system. I think so. Future transportation. Well, we're not there yet, right? So I think this one here is going to be B. Modern cities. Lots of you are getting that. That's really good. Okay, used for military transportation. Ancient roads, yes, we know they did. We talked about the Romans. Subway, no. Sticking soldiers into subways, probably not a good idea, even though we see that in movies. Future transportation, didn't talk about that. So military transport here would be probably A. Would make the most sense, right? Moves human capital. They all move humans. Okay? If there's a road, people will travel on it. I'm pretty sure there's a few songs that have that lyrics. Okay, and then the last question, will move humans at unprecedented speeds around the world? Just look at the tense of the question, will move humans. This would be C, right? Do that again. C. Future transportation. Okay. Ariadna, for number 39, you're right. It's moving humans through tubes, but it's also true for subways and it's also true for ancient roads, so be careful there. Okay. All right, students, that's the answer. That's the listening. Those are the tips. How did you do? I think some of you were also here the week before last. What did you get out of 40? How did you perform? You can check out your raw score conversion on the website. So at the bottom of the website here, you can't really see it because I can't scroll that far. There is a score calculator. And the score calculator looks like this. So if in the listening section you got like 39, that's a band 9. Okay. If you got 11 on the whole listening section, you got a band 4. Not bad, right? You can get a quarter of the answers correct. You still get a band 4. It's not going to be good enough. But let's say that you got something like 31. Band 7. Okay. Or if you got a 27 or 327, it's not a valid score. But if you got a 27, it's a 6.5. Okay. Aisha says, I got 24. 24, Aisha, is a band 6. Okay. All right. Students, you can practice lots more listening on the websites. Remember what I showed you. We've got 6 full listening tests, bonus listening audio for the reading, for the speaking sections. Sign up on our websites. Click those big red buttons right there. It is a one-time payment, and we don't ask you for money more than just once. And then you can join these live classes and really get into it, get all the help that you need. You can see there all the CDs, all the lesson videos, practice exams, workbooks that you can download. Lots more interactive course, computer-based practice exams, so tons of goodies there. Students, have an awesome rest of your Tuesday. Today is a special day in Canada. Anybody know what today is in Canada? I think it's good to mention this. I was actually with one of my friends who is First Nations. What civic holiday is it today in Canada? I think some of you are in Canada, so you should know this. It is called... Yeah, there's no work today in Canada. It is called Day of Truth and Reconciliation. Okay? It's not Thanksgiving. It's called the Day of Truth and Reconciliation. This is a new holiday in Canada. That recognizes the difficulties and tragedies brought to the indigenous people of North America during colonization and the reparations needed. Check into that. Okay, so today in Canada it's called the Day of Truth and Reconciliation. It's a very interesting and welcomed holiday, and I agree with it 100%. So check that out. Okay, lots of love to all of you wherever you are in the world today. Keep up the studies. Walk through life with a kind heart. Smile. Enjoy a breath of fresh air. And study hard for your next IELTS exam. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. Much love to all of you wherever you are in the world today. Bye for now.